The mind door is always Nama because it's the last Bhavanga Chitta before the mind door process, before the mind door at first in consciousness arises.
Thank you, Nina, for your mail as well. Thank you.
Maybe it helps a little. Yeah, it's difficult, to find the translation.
Yeah.
Everyone, hello Nina, hello Gabby, Alan,
Good morning.
Mark,
Good morning.
Hi, Sarah.
Robert, Betty.
Hi.
Jan, Pat, Nopadon.
Hello, Sarah.
How are you, Nina, today?
Hey.
Morning. Still very cold where you are, Nina?
Oh, yes, for me it's cold. It's okay, it's okay.
Warm in your flat?
Oh, not always, but it depends.
Mark, whereabouts in the Netherlands are you?
In Amsterdam.
Okay.
So that must be known in
Yes.
Australia.
Of course, yes. We've been to Amsterdam a few times, yes.
All right, yeah.
Very nice.
Where are you, Sarah, in Australia?
In Sydney.
Sydney. All right. That's known by me as well.
You know about Sydney, yes.
Yeah, never been there, but I know the how do you say that? Sydney Opera Hall.
Yes.
Opera Hall? Opera House.
Opera House, yes.
Opera House. Which is really lovely in my opinion.
Yes, very nice. They've had a difficult time because of being closed for COVID for so long. And so
yeah, I can imagine.
For any arts centers.
Yes, it's the same here.
How are you, Gabby? I can't hear you.
Now, thank you. Thank you, I'm fine. You too?
Gabby worked so hard on the translation in German of the COVID article. So we were discussing a few words, you know.
Yeah, I start with a fresh mind, and I hope I can make it soon. Finished and send it.
But the footnotes are so difficult. But don't worry too much.
Yeah.
Don't worry too much. Because you can put things between brackets to give a further explanation. And that may help.
But the translation is always difficult, isn't it?
Yes.
Also from Pali to English.
Language is different.
Pali to Dutch, and so easy to use words which just really miss nuances.
The important thing is the understanding, because if one doesn't understand the meaning or isn't clear on a point, when one translates, then it's not clear. So the main thing is the understanding, then one can put it in one's own words.
Censor is always Rupa, you know. The censor doesn't know anything.
Shanti, good to see you again. Glad you've come back again.
That was Dika.
Very good.
Yeah, Shanti has a point. I like to help her to bring it.
Shall we see if Ajahn is here yet? Ajahn, are you here now?
ค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Yeah, Ajahn.
ครับอาจารย์ครับ
Okay, so maybe either Gabby or Shanti can bring up your
กลับ
point.
เท้าท่านอาจารย์
You know, Shanti has a point, and maybe Ajahn can elaborate a little. It's helpful. It's about pasa or contact, because pasa can contact realities, but also concept. And Chanti's point was, how is it possible that Passa, which is real, can contact something which is not real? So maybe other people may also be wondering about this point. So it's any question I think is useful for other people.
That's why we better just study one characteristic of a reality at a time. For example, citta, the reality which arises to experience only, just to experience. So it's the reality which experiences the nature of the characteristic so clear rather than other cetasikas which arise together. And citta itself cannot arise by itself. It cannot arise alone, but it needs factors or conditions to condition its arising. And one is the reality which contact. It knows the object, but it does not experience the object as citta. The faculty or the chief of experiences is now experiencing an object. That's why when we talk about any reality, we are talking about that which is now appearing, to understand the truth that no matter what is there as object, there must be a reality, the chief of experiencing. And we use the term citta to differentiate its nature from the nature of cetasikas, which arise together, but has different characteristics and this different function too. For example, patsa, it experiences the object by way of contacting. That's all, as much as it can do. It can contact Nibana when Nibana is the object, but it's conditioned by panya of that degree. So each reality cannot arise without any conditions for its arising to be just that particular one reality arising and experiencing and then falling away instantly, never to return. That's why the moment of whatever is now appearing, the citta is there, the chief of experiencing the object by way of, there must be passa, which contact. It experiences the object by way of contacting, that's all. As much as it can experience an object, is that it can contact that object. And at that very moment, instantly together, it conditions citta and citasikas to arise together and experience that object in their own way and their own functions. That's all. So no matter what object is, there must be passa. As no matter what any object is now appearing, there must be the manodavara vachana citta, the adverting to that object, and the panchatvara vachana when it's through the sense doors. That's all. Because we cannot understand the nature of citta of each moment as it is different ones. For example, bhavanga, this world does not appear because it's not time for conditions, to condition moment of experiencing what is there, which is the object of this world. So it just experiences the object of bhavanga. And there must be passa, contacting that object. Even the object is not the object of this world. It's not the visible object right now. It's not the sound right now. But the moment of bhavanga is there with passa and other cetasikas for a moment of citta to arise and perform the function of bhavanga. Even the moment of experiencing an object as bhavanga, it needs passa too. So passa is there as a condition for citta to experience any object it contacts. Passa contacted already. That's why passa arises with each citta, even panchatavara vachana or manodavara vachana or bhavanga or patisanti and this consciousness. Any moment it's there. So citta experience only the object that passa contacted.
And Ajahn, It can be a reality like sound or smell, but also something that is not real in the absolute sense, like a concept.
Can Chitta experience it without contact?
It needs contact too
Mm.
for any
Yes.
experience.
At moment of hearing, contacts Chitta and sound. At moment of seeing, it contacts the visible object and the seeing. So at moment of thinking, Phassa is contacting the object of that particular thought. So Chitta arises and experiences that as thinking. And before that, there must be Manodvara Vachana with Phassa, which contacts a certain object which has been remembered. And there are other conditions to condition the Phassa to contact such particular object. When it's strong attachment, again and again arising, more than other moment, because of Phassa. And the Lopa or Dosa conditioned it to experience that object which is not there anymore, but memory is there. Sanya marks and remember, not forgetting. It's conditioned for such moment of thinking about the past because of sanya. And if Phassa does not contact that to the Chitta cannot experience that very object. Even there is sanya, because sanya arises with Chittas all the time, one by one, at any moment. So which one can condition Phassa and sanya to be the object of Chitta? Because Chitta does not have such conditions for by itself to experience such and such object, but it has to experience only that which Phassa contact only. If such Phassa does not arise in contact, Chitta cannot arise with Phassa to experience the object that Phassa contacted.
So the object can be a human being, or this or that person that Sanya remembers. And that
But
is
without seeing, can there be the idea of that?
Excuse me, Ajahn, can you repeat it?
If it is not seen before, can the memory of that to think about shape and form of that which appears just one dot, a very, very tiny moment at a time, to become the shape and form as nimitta, to be remembered as human being or chicken or snake or whatever, shoes, table.
Yes, I find that very helpful that you say just one dot can impinge on the eye sense, not a whole human being.
That's why we live in the world of nimitta from birth to death, because of the rapidity of the arising and falling away of dhammas. No one can change the way it is. It is conditioned to arise as condition has conditioned it to arise. When it has arisen, then it fall away instantly. Nobody can change how fast, how rapidly it arises and falls away, instantly all the time. That's why it's like the magician, see, playing trick all the time, because there is not only one dot of seeing, just like the magician, see, when he played tricks, we don't know how it's made very fast to be something known as this and that. Nimitta. That's why there cannot be only one single reality. It's experienced as the object. By way of Viticita, see, the moment when Panchatavara Vachana is there, the next one has to be seeing or hearing. How can the Panchatavara Vachana be known? Because right understanding cannot arise after Panchatavarāvachana. It has to be through the sense of seeing or hearing and so on. And the next one is Sampatichana, and the next one is by way of conditions. Nobody can change. That's why only one single reality cannot be the object. That's why there are nimitta of any reality appearing. For example, rupa nimitta, vedana nimitta, sanya nimitta, sankhara nimitta, and vijnana nimitta. Who can change? That's why the reality which does not have nimitta is only Nibana, because it does not arise at all. So we live in the world of nimitta, taking whatever is there as something, while in truth, nothing is left, because each moment is gone, never to return. But the rapidity of the arising and falling away, like holding the fire stick and swing it quickly, it's there, a circle of light. See, how come? Just one dot. So the world, the way it is, appearing as nimitta all the time. That's why Buddha enlightened the truth. So he taught about each single one as a reality. The seeing moment cannot be Panchatavarāvachana, cannot be Sampatichana, cannot be Santirana, because only a moment of seeing, that reality just arises to perform the function of seeing. The citta before it's arising and after it's arising cannot perform the function of seeing, but it can experience the same object because of vitakka cetasika arises with it. That's why only the 10 vipaka, ahetuka, can have only 7 cetasikas arising. That's enough for its arising because it's conditioned by karma. When it's time to arise by the conditions, no one can stop. Nothing can stop, because actually that's the way Dhamma is. No one at all. Just learn to understand the truth. That's all. As no self and no thing and no one. Otherwise, how can the idea of thing and people be eradicated? And the truth is that actually there is no one and nothing at all, because it's only a reality arising and falling away. So how can that one be taken for I or anything? But at any moment of experiencing an object, because there is no understanding of the truth right in, even there's no body at all, but that which arises and experience, it experiences, so it's me. Who else? That's why there is the idea of that which experiences as I, and that which is the object as something by way of nimitta.
Ajahn, that is a very interesting point that you said. The 7 ahetuka cittas. Well, for those who don't know Pali, it's the seeing and the hearing and these vipaka cittas. They don't need more than 7. They don't need more cetasikas, only the minimum, because karma conditioned it. And that is enough. So that is a very interesting point.
That's why we learn to understand what is it, what are there at moment of seeing. Just in a moment and then gone, everything. And this is the way to have more confidence, satya, to understand the truth as it is. Otherwise, we don't listen more to understand better and better that how cannot it be taken for anything at all. Even single, we take it for thing, what are there? The four primary rupas cannot be missed anyone at all. They have to be four, and more than that, another four arising together, which can be directly experienced through different doorways. For example, there must be that which can be smelled, even it is the four primary rupas, but it has another rupa, which is the smell. At moment when any odor or smell appearing, it means that it is experienced. But the four primary rupas, hardness and softness, cannot be smelled. But it's there, but it's not the smell. So all are different dhammas, that's all, to be known. Otherwise, nothing can eradicate the ignorance and the clinging to that with attachment to the idea of self. From life to life, eons and eons ago. That's why we learn to understand the truth, the absolute truth. And this is the firm confidence, little by little, to let go ignorance and attachment to what is there now, taken for something all the time. Even right now, at moment of seeing, what is seen, something, not just a single moment, because the mind process does not appear as it is yet, because even there are many moments, many processes of mind are in between the seeing right now, but they are not known at all as mind process. That's why what appears is the absolute truth. It's like the nimitta, the magician, the citta arising and falling away all the time, so very rapidly. So what appears becomes something like the magician is playing his trick. So we understand what it's meant by Buddha, the enlightened one, experiences the truth. And what he taught is not all he knew, but he knew much more than this. But according to the listeners, which can develop understanding, he taught what can be understood, even to become arahata level, not at level of Buddha himself. That's why the truth can be studied carefully to understand each one better and better, clearer and clearer, to be object of understanding only one at a time by way of nimitta of each one. It's so true. Any moment in life is just like this. But the truth is the truth, to be studied and have more confidence of no self and no thing. Because when an object appears without other objects at all, it means that there's no world, other world, only that which is there arising and falling away. Imagine how great, how sharp, how strong right understanding is there. Directly experience the truth. Since it's so true, so it can become and be enlightened or object of understanding of its nature as it is. For example, right now, hardness is there as usual. Moments before hearing the truth of it, there's no idea about it at all, not even thinking about the hardness itself. That's why even right now, seeing it and hardness is there one by one, but they seem that they are together at the same time, even they are different. No thinking about it at all, no thought, no idea, just it's gone, pass on and on without understanding. So ignorance of the truth of it must be there, unknown, because no thinking about its truth that it's there. And when it's there, nothing is there together, just only a moment of hardness appearing. And that can be closer and closer and closer to the truth of that actually there is no other thing else at all at moment when hardness is there. So there can be more understanding of the nature of hardness as it is hard, only hard. It cannot be anything else at all. And when it's the other object, that object is only that object. It cannot be other object at all. So anything now which is appearing can be object of right understanding, but depending on how much firm confidence is there enough of the understanding of no one at all. Is it firm enough? Or it just developing now unknowingly by understanding each reality when it's talked about little by little, and little by little from moment to moment is what is meant by bhavana, the development of understanding, because understanding is there. If there's no understanding there, how can that right understanding develop on and on? So it is this moment of understanding arising and falling away, and more it develops little by little by itself, by its function, by its characteristic. No one there at all. So even bhavana is not anyone at all. We are talking about the absolute truth as no one, only the nature which experience an object, nama, and the reality which cannot experience. Both are taken for something all the time by nimitta, which appears.
So for some people, taking it for something may be difficult to understand.
Why not? Because think is now thinking about that which appears.
I didn't get it.
Okay, that it's thinking about shape and form.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Because you see that when you just draw something, only a dot, can it be a dog or a cat? Just one dot?
No, no. That's a good example.
Yeah. Keeping on drawing more and more and more as a line, shape and form until it becomes something. This is not as rapidly as the moment when now chitta arises and falls away all the time instantly. Who knows before seeing there is the chitta which does not see. And before that, the chitta which does not experience any object in this world at all. It's just like the moment of being fast asleep. Nothing is there. But before something is the object which is seen or heard, chitta arises and performs its function so very rapidly that no one knows what are there. For example, 3 moments of bhavanga before a moment of adverting to the object which impinge on the sensor. Otherwise, there cannot be the moment of beginning to experience the object, which is not the object of bhavanga. That's why it's not moment of being asleep, but it's moment of waking up, because it begin to experience the object which is there, which is not the object at moment of being fast asleep. But who knows about the Panchatavara Vachana, the adverting consciousness, and the Sampatichana receiving after seeing, and the Santira and so on? Not at all, no matter who. That's why study just what is there, can be known, to be known, because it's there. Ready already, no one has made it to arise at all. But since it's there, what is its nature? That which is seen cannot be anything at all, because it can impinge on the eye base. And what can impinge on the eye base is not the table or the bed or anything, but it's that which is there with the four primary rupas. And how tiny the primary rupa is in Akalapa, see? And it's there, impinged on the eye base, not as a table or thing at all, but the rapidity of the arising and falling away in succession through mind door and sense door, mind door and sense door. What appears as soon as one opens one's eyes, so many things are there. That's why the uncountable moments of the arising and falling away, before there can be many things appear at once when one opens one's eyes. See? But the Buddha enlightened the truth of what is there in split second, a single moment, from moment to moment, now as it is. But what can be known? Not the Pavanka or the Chitta before seeing or after seeing. That's why what is there? We don't think about that which has arisen before or arise after the seeing. But what is that? It's seen can be known. But it cannot be understood as it is, as not anything. Very soon, it takes time to listen again and again and again before it can be aware and begin to study the nature of that which we heard before. It just arises to experience the object. At moment when it sees, it experiences what is seen. At moment of hearing, it experiences sound. But it's so very rapidly that it seems like one understands the word instead of hearing the sound. But there must be the moment of hearing before knowing the meaning of that through the mind door.
Just to get back to Chanti's first point and one or two of the other points to just for those who are newer. So the first point about passa. So it's not just passa, but the chitta at the moment of thinking and all the cetasikas that arise with it. So the feeling, the concentration, as well as the passa and so many other cetasikas, they can all experience a concept at the moment of thinking, like thinking about Nina, thinking about what is heard. There has to be the experiencing of concepts. So not just passa, but the chitta and all those other realities that arise together at that moment experience the concept, the panyati. So at any moment in life, either a reality is experienced or a concept at the moment of seeing and at moments of chittas arising in sense door process. It is the reality, the rupa that's experienced, but through the mind door, it can be either a reality or a concept. So that was the first point. And on Gabby's point at the very beginning about sense doors and mind door, which can be confusing. So when the chittas through the eye door process arise, then the sense door is the eye sense. So that is all that is meant by the doorway. It is the rupa that is the condition for all those chittas in that eye door process to experience the visible object. if the visible object hadn't impinged on the eye sense, there couldn't be the adverting to the visible object, there couldn't be the seeing, there couldn't be any experiencing through the eye door process. So the eye sense is the doorway, the means for those cheetahs to experience the object, and the same for the other sense doorways, ear sense, and so on. When it comes to the cheetahs that experience an object through the mind door, the last bhavanga citta that arises before there is the adverting to the object through the mind door is said to be the doorway. It's the means for those cheetahs to experience the object, no matter a reality or a concept, through the mind door. So when we read about the mind door, the reality which is the mind door, it's referring to the last bhavanga citta. But sometimes, like I don't know it in the passage you're translating, sometimes just in short, we talk about the mind door experiences, and then it's just referring to all the cheetahs that arise in the mind door process. So mind door is sometimes just used in short for the mind door process or the mind door cheetahs that experience an object. But if the question is, what is the reality which is the mind door, then it is the last bhavanga citta before those mind door process cheetahs arise. And one other point I just want to pick up on is when Nina, when we say that seeing is a result of karma, so it only needs 7 Chaitasikas because it's just a result of karma, it doesn't need more. But we just need to be a little bit careful because the Sampatichana and Santirana cheetahs that follow are also the result of karma, but they need, in addition to the 7, they also need Vitaka and Adimoka. So they need a couple of extra Chaitasikas, even though they are just the result of karma. So if we are being precise, we have to add a little bit more detail, but just in short, the reason so few Chaitasikas are needed is because they're the result of karma.
And so a simple question or a simple point is so interesting, and the way Ajahn elaborates on it, right. And it's more deeply, it's very useful.
And on the point about something, so just to take it back to the beginning, so now it seems that something or someone is seen, but actually what is seen now is just that which is visible. No thing, no person. But like the example of the dots, it always seems that something or someone is there. And when there is no understanding, there's always the idea that something or someone is seen, something or someone is heard, because there's not the understanding that it's just the sound, just sound that is heard at this moment. And then thinking because of the memory and with the contact and all the other Chaitasikas of the idea of what is being heard. So this is what is meant by something, not the understanding of just the reality which is seen or heard now.
Very good, yeah.
Can I ask something?
Yes, go ahead, Karis.
So first, very much thank you to Ajahn and Nina for my question and all the elaboration. There's a lot of confusion in the word experience. It's used all the time, but the dictionary doesn't help. I know that Chitta clearly knows an object. That's for me language which is precise, but it becomes confusing when we say Chitta experiences, but Chaitasikas experience, a Rupa that I do understand does not experience. is there a Pali word for experience? Because the conventional sense means to know, or to, the dictionary even says gains knowledge or skill of from doing, seeing, or feeling things, which is not at all what we're talking about. So maybe it's like meeting more. So a Pali word would help. And then there was a little question coming up when Ajahn said only Nibana doesn't have a nimitta, but then came up, does Bhavanga Chitta have a nimitta or Jivit Indriya? Thank you.
So when we say Chitta clearly experiences an object, it doesn't mean it's the same as Panya, because Panya knows the true nature as not self of an object. But that is not the function of Chitta, because Chitta just experience. So we can be, I understand the confusion when we hear Chitta clearly knows an object, but it's different from Panya.
Yeah, and if I could just add a little bit on experience, it has many different meanings, of course, but we can say, well, I experience pain, or I experience heat or cold. It is a more neutral expression for knowing than knowing. So knowing implies more than just experiencing. Because it implies some intellectual aspect to it also, whereas experiencing is just the immediate thing that any mental state does. It experiences, and the characteristic of consciousness is that it experiences an object of one kind or another all the time. If there's no object, there's no experiencing. Experiencing implies there being an object to the mental state, the mental faculty.
In order to understand the truth of what we are talking about, can it be known right now? For example, what is there? See, what is there? Is there something or nothing at all? See, what is there? Sound is there. Why does one know that sound is there? Or smell is there when it appears? But there must be a reality which knows or experiences it, so it is known. At the moment when it is known, there must be the reality which experiences or know it. So it's known to the knowing, or whatever you use, any word. But there must be the reality which does not have any shape and form at all. But at moment when hardness is there, how can it appear? Because when there's no touching, hardness does not appear at all. So at moment of touching only, that hardness appears as it's hard. But what is there? A reality or not, which experience, which knows hardness when it appears. Because there is hardness all around, but when there's no touching, can it appear as it's hard at all? But at moment of experience, or what word you use, the hardness appears to that which knows or experiences that. No matter what word we use, it the moment of a reality which knows or experiences hardness, so hardness can appear at that very moment of touching only. But when there's no touching, even we think that it's there, but actually, is it there? Or it is the thinking about it that is still there. That's why there must be thinking, considering about the truth of whatever is there from moment to moment. Otherwise, there cannot be the idea of things and people from birth to death, from life to life. But in truth, what is seen it is the same as that which is heard. Impossible. And without the hearing, we call that the hearing. But actually, it's a reality because it's there. Experiences or knows hardness, the sound, which is there as the object. So now, so many things appears, but without that which sees, knows, experience, heard, and so on, can whatever is there seen? Impossible. That's why we just think about that which is now appearing, but not about that which experience is there. And when there's no understanding and the reality which experience it is there, so it's me, because no understanding of the truth that it is only a reality, a moment of that reality arising and experience that object, no one there at all. So consider what is the truth to understand the absolute truth of life, of reality. And that is Ariya Satya, the noble truth. Nobody can change, or who can change? Impossible. That's why beginning to understand what is there in life from moment to moment. And this is a moment of seeing. So there must be what appears to seeing. We call it seeing because it sees that. And that is seen, but that is seen cannot experience, cannot know anything at all. So there are different realities arising at moment of seeing. One experience, the object, so that is the word seeing. No matter any time, seeing sees. And that which is seen cannot experience anything. That's why no matter in any time, any world, anywhere, whenever whatever appears, there must be a reality which experiences that. So that can be the object which appears to only that which experiences it. And how can there be anyone there? It's just the moment of experiencing an object. And the details of that is so very, very subtle that it can be known little by little. Like Phassa, when we're talking about Phassa, it's not the seeing, but it is the reality which can experience, but not by seeing, but by contacting. See, each one has its own characteristic and its own function, and it cannot be changed at all. And Citta does not contact, but whenever contact arises, contacting the object to that which experienced instantly, no one there. Just to understand the truth that we take the moment from birth up to now as I, but where am I or where was I? Birth is birth moment. Where is the birth moment now? Impossible. It's gone completely. And even just a moment ago, when we use the word die, it means that that which dies does not arise again. It cannot return. It cannot be the same at all. So this moment dies, can we say that? Because it's gone, never to arise again. And the next moment is conditioned to arise after that moment by way of paccaya, many, many different conditions. That's why we learn to understand how it cannot be taken for anything permanent or anyone at all, because the truth is a truth. What is that is conditioned to arise. Otherwise, it cannot be experienced at all, or it cannot experience anything at all. So what is there has to be conditioned to arise, because even right now, while we are talking, they're seeing all the time. Who makes the seeing to arise from moment to moment, in between thinking and talking? See, all are different dhammas by different conditions. That's why without learning more to have more confidence of the reality as ourselves, it's impossible to let go the idea on the clinging to the idea of I from birth up to now, or things, or people, or whatever is there. That's why what is there can be studied, can be known little by little when it's there. That's why when we talking about listening to Dhamma, where is it now? It's Dhamma. Listen to the truth of it. Study Dhamma when? Now, when it's there. To study. What for? To realize the truth, to experience that it's just exactly what we have heard about it. Like seeing. It's the reality which is conditioned to arise, to see, just to see. And the condition for seeing is the eye sense and the visible object which can impinge on the eye sense, that's all. Smell cannot impinge on the eye base. So at that very moment, which is conditioned to arise to see, it's there seeing. It's there now seeing. And Buddha taught about all kinds of realities to be known, to be studied when it's there, to be directly experienced, the truth of it. When it's not there, how can there be the moment of understanding the truth of it? That's why study what is there just now to understand the truth of it. And the understanding, at moment of understanding, develops little by little. That's why it is bhavana. If there's no moment of understanding at all, how can there be highly, greatly understanding of the truth, which is now hidden from eons and eons ago? Without any word to think about it, to study it, it's impossible to show up as it is, as not anyone at all, as the reality which experiences and the reality which cannot experience at all. No matter what we are talking about now or later, they are realities, the realities which can be studied when it's there. For example, Passana, where seeing sees just only this, because of a reality which can experience the object by way of Passa, arising. And what arises with Passa is the Citta and Cetasika, which experience the same object by different manners, different function, different characteristics. That's why I learn about realities, Citta, Cetasika, little by little, to understand the truth of each one as not self. So there can be enough understanding to experience that which is now appearing when time comes by conditions.
And whatever arises must have a nimitta, so it doesn't matter whether it's seeing or visible object or bhavanga or jivitindriya. Any reality that arises and falls away has a nimitta. So the only reality that is animitta is Nibana. But just because a reality has its nimitta doesn't mean that it appears, or it depends on conditions whether it appears or not. So to the Buddha, all realities, all conditioned realities appeared by nimitta. For us, it just depends on accumulations and conditions as to what appears, but it's always the nimitta that appears. And as you know, there are two kinds of realities, the namas and the rupas. So the namas, the chittas and the cetasikas, experience an object. So it means that whenever citta and cetasikas arise, there must be an aramana that is experienced. So citta comes from the word chinteti, which means to experience. So whenever citta arises, there is the experiencing, chinteti or vijanati, different words, and aramana, no matter it's a reality or concept. And the same with the cetasikas, the feeling, feels the object, the ekagata concentrates, focuses on the object. So whatever nama it is that arises, it experiences an object. And the rupas are those realities, as you said, which don't experience anything. So the words that are used, so if it's referring to citta, it usually refers to chinteti or vijanati. And if it's referring to vedana, then it would be vedayati. So there is the verb from the term, from the citta or cetasika, which refers to the experiencing of the object. And it's now, as Ajahn was saying, it's at the moment of seeing, it has to experience the object, the feeling with it has to feel in a neutral way at that moment. The passa has to experience by way of contacting. So each nama performs its function when it arises and experiences according to that particular function.
So important. Thank you.
Yes, it's very important. It's really important to clearly understand the distinction between namas, cittas and cetasikas, and rupas, to understand that seeing has to experience an object, but the visible object can never experience anything. And apart from the experiencing and that which is experienced, there's no one, no thing at all. Just the seeing of what is seen, not your seeing or my seeing or anyone's seeing. And without understanding this distinction and understanding the nature of these different realities and what is meant by experiencing and what is meant by that which is experienced, it's impossible to understand dhammas as anatta. So it's a really good question. Thank you for sharing.
Sarah, is nama sometimes translated as bending towards?
Yes,
bending.
nameti. So nama is nameti, that which bends towards the object. So whenever nama arises, it nameti, it experiences the object by way of bending towards it. Yes.
But it's not actually translated as bending. I mean, that's one of the ways it's explained, because, you know, in Pali, when they have a word, they will explain it in different ways by reference to words with similar sound to the word that's being defined.
Okay.
So nama is, in the explanation of its meaning, it is explained that it means or refers to the bending of the consciousness toward the object.
It just shows its aspect of experience, of experiencing that which is bent towards, whereas rupa doesn't have that function of, in inverted commas, bending.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any topics they'd like to bring up today? Anne Lee or Jyotika or Betty or anyone? Robert?
I have a question. I was reading about conditions in the piece Nina wrote, and I read that citta can experience citta. But in my opinion, the chitta which experience is existing at another moment as the chitta which is experienced. So they don't exist at the same time. So I wonder how it's possible to experience something which isn't there anymore.
Yes, it has to be fallen away already, just fallen away, because the chitta cannot experience itself. So when it experiences another chitta, it means it has just fallen away, but it can still be the object. It's sometimes said like a photocopy that is used as an image to show it's exactly the same, but just fallen away. It is okay to say it's experienced chitta, which has just fallen away. So like,
For example,
I wonder how it's possible to experience something which isn't there anymore. How can
because
that
it's the nimitta which is experienced. For example,
Right.
seeing now, there's seeing at this moment. Impossible to directly understand seeing when it arises, because when seeing arises, the object is visible object. But so the seeing consciousness cannot be experienced in the idle process. So the panya in the idle process cannot experience seeing because the object is visible object. But in subsequent mind or process or processes, that characteristic of seeing can be directly known by way of its nimitta, the characteristic, the sign of the characteristic appears to panya. So this is how it is known. So the chitta itself, as Nina said, has fallen away. Many chittas have fallen away, but the characteristic can be known. If it couldn't be known, the Buddha could not have become enlightened to the truth of different realities. So no matter we're talking about the Buddha's panya or anyone's panya, the panya can only understand seeing by way of its nimitta, the nimitta of the characteristic of that reality.
should I understand nimitta as a sort of an echo, or?
It's like an echo. It's like the shadow, the echo, the photocopy, that's why we give the fire stick analogy. It's like the replica of the reality. It's the characteristic of the reality that appears by way of that nimitta and can be understood in that way.
Right. So nimitta is...
And this explains how the Buddha's panya could understand any reality by way of the nimitta. So even if we're talking about Vipassana Jnana, the very clear understanding of reality, it is the clear understanding of the nimitta, of the characteristic of the reality.
Right.
If we want to be very precise, yes.
I understand that nimitta is a difficult subject for everybody really to understand. Usually Ajahn explains because realities arise and fall away so very fast, succeeding one another, and impossible to just catch one reality, impossible. So they see again and again, and it arises again. So we cannot pinpoint which seeing is the object. But
many moments of seeing have arisen and fallen away in order for its characteristic to appear by way of nimitta.
Oh,
so in the beginning, we just say it is the understanding of the reality. But when we consider more and question more like you do, to be precise, it is by way of the nimitta.
Right. And nimitta is, because what I understand is nimitta is also the seeing of all the seeing things as a whole. So combining all the different moments together as a whole. Is that correct as well?
But it is usually an image of a circle of light which goes around. And it seems only a moment with are many different moments that are together as a circle of light. In that way, it's a good explanation of nimitta, I find.
Right.
But in truth, the seeing is just one dot, it's just one reality. But because there are many, there is the sign or the impression of the seeing, and this conditions the impression of something that is seen, the sign, the details, the color, the person, the thing. But in truth, it's just, each seeing is just one reality.
Yes, so nimitta is sometimes like an echo, and sometimes it's the combining of all the dots, which is a bit different, or not?
What do you mean by, I'm not sure what you mean by the combining of all the dots, but
Right,
I think you're referring to, there's something else called compactness, which may be what you're referring to, seeing things as objects.
For some reason, I understood that if I'm hearing a sound of for instance, a motor car, my mind makes it as being one sound, although the duration is, for instance, 7 seconds, and in reality, it's a lot of small sounds, but the mind makes it one, sees it as one sound. And I understood that nimitta as well, or did I understood wrong?
I don't think we normally use nimitta in that respect,
way. All right.
Although to some extent, because we say that, for example, when there's awareness of visible object, it's not just awareness of one moment of visible object, it's many moments of visible object. It appears to have continuity because of the rapidity of the rise and fall away.
Yes, that's what I...
Nimitta. Yes. So we attribute that to the rapidity of the rising and falling away of the successive moments of the reality, as giving an impression of continuity.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. But that sounds a bit different than nimitta as an echo of a reality. Or,
well, when we say that, when we talk about the fact that it's not the reality that's experienced but the nimitta, then that's when the analogy, the echo, is used. When we talk about the apparent continuity of something, then again, it's the nimitta that's experienced, but it's the rapidity of the rising and falling away, the rapidity of the succession of different instances, which give rise to the notion of continuity, but it's still the nimitta that is being experienced then.
right. I'm going to consider this. I'm not quite understand. Maybe it will happen at some point.
And I think that confusion can also be because when understanding begins to develop, when it's intellectual understanding, it is understanding of the nimitta, which is quite far away from the reality. It's the idea about the nimitta of the reality. But when the understanding develops, it gets closer and closer to understanding the characteristic of the reality appearing right now. But it has to actually be by way of the nimitta of the reality, the echo of the reality. So the understanding has to develop to get closer and closer to the truth of what appears right now. Otherwise, but in the beginning, it is the concept, it is the nimitta of the detail, sign and the detail of the reality, not yet the actual reality appearing. So it depends a little bit on the context, what we're referring to, whether we're referring to the sign of what appears by way of intellectual understanding or the direct understanding of the reality itself by way of nimitta as the echo of the actual seeing, which has just fallen away. But good points, and perhaps Ajahn would like to add more too.
I think that we can understand when we are interested in what is there now, not just the word from the book. For example, can only one citta be known or or appears as the object just one moment of citta? Even seeing right now without the teachings, who knows that it is the nimitta of that which arises and falls away in succession, see that object, not just one object either. That's why the rapidity of whatever is there in life cannot be directly known at all until there is the hearing about the truth, considering it, whether it's just right that, for example, can a single moment of seeing be seen? Impossible. But now we don't mind how many hundred of thousands are there. We don't mind at all. But we learn to understand the nature of that which sees as not me or anyone at all, because it's only that which can experience visible object. And in life, there are many things experienced, but not by seeing, but by other kind of citta, reality, which experience that object. That's why if we learn to understand what is there now, according to what is taught in book, for example, like bending, there are many objects all around, but depending on phassa, which contact. So citta and cetasika arises with phassa, which contacted that object. And when we use the word bending, it does not experience any other object, only that which phassa is there. That's why it bends towards that object, because of phassa contacted. It doesn't matter what word is used, to just understand that which arises and experience according to the reality, which is phassa, to experience this or that, no matter through any doorway, sensor or mind, all depends on phassa. But phassa cannot understand the truth because its characteristic and its function is just to contact that which is there. By conditions too, sometimes with panya, which understand that, and sometimes with ignorance or with attachment, lopa. There are so many conditions for a moment of citta to arise, to be such. That's why just understand the way it is now. For example, seeing, we don't mind how many moments of seeing, but seeing is there. Why not the other? Because the other cetasika does not perform the function of seeing. It's only one moment of experiencing the object clearly, because its function is just to experience the nature of that object, the characteristic of that object, not understanding. It cannot be panya, it cannot be feeling, it cannot be any other cetasika or reality. It just arises to experience. So now, when whatever appears, it's because citta experience that clearly, to know the difference between different shade of color and so on. That's why it's known as different things, because of the citta arises and performs its function. So there can be the understanding of that when it's written in the way that it can condition moment of thinking about it, but not with wrong understanding that it bend like the body, not at all. But it has to arise according to phassa, experience or contact what object. So the other reality arising together with it cannot experience the other thing. It bend towards that object, or we don't have to use the word bend because it's just very, very fast. But to show the difference, why it is experiencing this object, not the other object. So the word bend, to bend, is used. That's all. But the truth is that seeing is not just one single moment, because it's there, just looking at a thing, only one thing. How many moments of seeing? See? So uncountable moment. So what appears is only the nimitta, the shape or form. We can use this word, but as seeing, not as other moment of hearing or thinking, but it's seeing. But it has to be the nimitta. That's why the word nimitta is used for any sankhara dhamma which arise and falls away in succession so very rapidly as nimitta. That's why we understand that we live in the world of nimitta, not understanding just one single moment, like the little finger cannot touch itself, but it can touch the other object. See, this is the way to understand the truth of what is there as not self, but not count and understand. Any word is used like nimitta, it has to be nimitta, because the rapidity of the succession of the arising and falling away from moments so very rapidly that it cannot appear as it is. But by nimitta, it appears as seeing or hearing or thinking from moment to moment. That's all. But actually, even right now, there are many processes in between seeing, which seems like there is seeing all the time. There must be other moments, especially mind or process. That's why it does not appear well or clear as when it appears to right understanding of its nature. That's why even seeing now arises and sees. The nimitta of seeing experiences or appears the nimitta of that which is experienced by many, many moments, uncountable. That's all. And this is the world. That's why nobody can understand the truth of it without the developing of understanding firmly, so firm that actually there are only different realities. The one can experience the object and the other cannot experience the object at all, no matter what it is. That's why when there is more understanding of this moment, it is the developing of right understanding to understand the nature which sees, which experiences. We don't count. We don't know. Panchatavara vachana arises before seeing. Sampatichana arises after seeing. It doesn't matter because it cannot appear at all, because it does not perform the function of seeing. Even seeing arises only one moment as Panchatavara, Vachana and other Chitta, one moment, but they cannot appear at all because they do not perform the function of seeing. That's why I understand the nature of the reality which now experiences arises by conditions, by patsa and by other cetasikas arising together and then following instantly together, never to return, to let go the idea of I, wrong understanding, from birth to death. After death, there's no I. What about now? There's no I either, because it's only a moment of reality which experiences different objects from time to time, so very rapidly in the world of nimitta all the time, until the teaching of the Buddha bring about attention about the truth of what is there now, which can be studied, which can be known, and then after that, which can be directly experienced. So it appears clearer to understanding. Otherwise, without understanding, how can it appear clear as it is? It cannot be anything. It's only that which can impinge on the eye base. It cannot be any word, any sound of music, or whatever is there. It's only that which can impinge on the ear base. That's all. This is the true life of realities which just arise and falls away in succession. After death, there must be condition for the next moment of life again, birth consciousness, as this life, to be forgotten when death comes, that's all. So what are they now? It's just like death moment, never to arise again. But as it is not the change from the Bhavanka to different Bhavanka by Dhamma, so it keeps on to be this same Bhavanka as birth and on until the moment of death, the same Bhavanka, the same personality, the same people, the same person, interrupted by moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, in between, and then fast asleep, and wake up again, experience again, gone again. Sunyata. But that is not the moment now, it's not the moment of realizing the truth, because right understanding is not enough. That's why what is meant by bhavana, the development of panya, right understanding of that which is now appearing, when it's there and it's gone, but it can be accumulated, to be conditioned to understand clearer and better later on. And when time comes, no matter what is there, no one can expect because it hasn't arisen yet. But right understanding which has been accumulated can understand that object as not self. That's why it has to begin in this life to understand the nature of that which is not self or anything at all, just arise and falls away by conditions, no matter what, rupa or nama. So now we know that why Panchatavara Vachana cannot appear, Sampatichana cannot appear. So, but they experience object. That's why the nimitta of that which experiences is there, and only seeing can be known. But before that, there must be that which experiences the object different from seeing. Only few and some can be known when it appears only, like seeing. If seeing does not arise as the blind person, no understanding of seeing at all. We heard many times about sati, see, but if there is not enough understanding of what is sati, it's impossible for sati to arise because the intellectual understanding is firm enough to condition moment of direct awareness of that which is now appearing, not of other thing, but of that which is now appearing. When it's not yet conditioned to arise, it cannot arise because it cannot understand the truth which is there yet. But when there is enough understanding of that which is there, experiencing an object, it's not the object which is experienced, but it is real, it's a reality which arises to experience. Developing the understanding of the nature of that which arises to experience, little by little, can condition moment of understand that which experience at any time, experiencing any object, no matter it is sound, smell, or whatever. That's right. There is seeing now, but the characteristic which is not anyone does not appear. because no understanding of seeing. So no matter when there is a moment of experiencing, no one and nothing, but it's that which arises and experience. So how can be the other? It's me. The moment of experiences, even it arises to experience, but no understanding of the truth. The experiencing is me because no one there at all. That's why in order to eliminate the idea of self, there must be the understanding of the truth of each reality, to let go, the clinging to that object as mine or me or things. And each word of the teachings of the Buddha should be studied very carefully, each word. For example, there is no one and nothing. So what is that? As long as it appears as something or someone, it's not true. Because Buddha said from his enlightenment, there is no one and no thing. So now, what is not thing and what is not self or me, the moment of seeing, just arises to see, and the other moment, there is the reality which arises to hear. That's why no one and no me. Until right understanding begin to be aware of one characteristic of a reality at a time by conditions, with some little or more according to conditions, understanding of the truth, beginning from it's there to be known. When there is understanding, it's known as it's not anything. For example, hardness all day is not the object of awareness yet, but it's there. When Panya is ready enough to understand the truth of it, it begins to understand the moment of hardness, which is touched at that very moment as nothing in it. Because usually there's no such even thinking about the truth of there's nothing in it, nothing in it at all. So it develops little by little. No matter thinking, liking, disliking, it doesn't matter what is there. According to conditions, to understand it at that very moment as it is. When there is the moment of irritation, can anyone stop or try to stop? Try to let go? It's not the path leading to enlighten the truth that actually it does not belong to anyone. It's not me who get angry, but it's there by conditions. So not the idea of trying not to have it, to get away from it, but it's moment of beginning to understand what has heard about it as it's just a reality. Nobody can change its characteristic to be different at all. It's there and then it's gone later when Panya is strong enough to let go what is there at that very moment when it's there, not after or before, because that is only thinking about it, not the direct experiencing of the truth, which is there. So very short, but appears as nimitta, enough to be studied, to be known, as it cannot be other thing, only that characteristic, even right now. Can seeing be other thing? It's the reality which, no matter what word is used for it, experience or know that which is there. And the moment of understanding the characteristic which experiences there is no thought at all about that which is experienced, never together, one by one. It can be close from one to another, but it cannot be the same one at all. So how long will it take to understand realities as not self? Now, who remembers or who feels? No one. Only when it's there. It cannot be changed. And it cannot last at all, very shortly, unknowingly, from moment to moment. So it has to be only now, this moment, to be known, to be studied, to begin to develop understanding of the truth of that which appears. Everything is gone, the sound is gone, but there must be something known. But whether there is understanding of its truth or take it for something as usual. That's why Satya Parami is so very important, to be truthful to the truth. Never change. It sees, it arises, and when there's hearing, it's not there. So there can be attention to different reality which follows this moment of seeing by conditions. So there can be the understanding of the truth, but the object is the object of awareness with right understanding. It's not just understanding the word about it while it's there, but not understanding the nature, the truth of it as not I or anything, only a reality. And this moment develops little by little at moment of understanding. That's why it is Jira Kala Bhavana, so long. That's why we can understand there's 12 rounds of the Four Noble Truths. Sachinyana of Pariyatti, about the Four Noble Truths. Kichayana, the Patipatti, Pariyatti, conditioned Patipatti, the second round of the Four Noble Truths. And the third round, when it's moment of Vipassanayana. What is there now is the object, so clear, only one at a time. So what is it meant? Only one at a time. No world with that object at all. The whole world is lost because it's only one object at a time. How can the other moment be as clear as that moment? That's why another word for panya is vipassana. When nothing is there together with only one object, which is the object of understanding. The truth is that. So the development of understanding can begin on and on and on. And right understanding, understand what is there and how much understanding is there too. Whether it is the beginning of satipatthana, direct awareness with understanding, which can understand the object as it is little by little, not as something as usual, until it appears well little by little, because of letting go ignorance and wrong understanding, taking it for something all the time, like now, at moment of seeing. So now we understand what it's meant. Study Dhamma is the understanding of Dhamma which is now appearing. Study, beginning to consider the truth little by little. No selection. The understanding of anatthaness develop little by little. Everything is unexpectedly arising. Next moment, who knows, unexpectedly arising and falling away instantly. This is the absolute truth.
Mark, I don't know if you are familiar with these 12 rounds of the Four Noble Truths, which Ajahn referred to. I think it's quite difficult for a lot of Pali terms for those who are not familiar with them. So in brief, as you know, there are four noble truths: the truth of dukkha, the cause of dukkha, that which is the end of dukkha, and the path leading to the end. So these are the four truths. And the first term Ajahn mentioned was Sachinyana. As you know, jnana is the same as panya, it's understanding. Satya means truth. So it's the understanding of the truth of the Four Noble Truths, the firm, confident understanding at the level of pariyatti. I think you know that pariyatti understanding is the intellectual understanding about realities. It's not just knowing the meaning of Pali terms or knowing how many cetasikas arise of each citta, but the firm understanding intellectually that it's only seeing which sees what is seen now, no self there, the firm confidence in what is true about different dhammas as anatta. So the first four rounds are at the level of Sachinyana, the firm pariyatti understanding about the first noble truth, that whatever is conditioned to arise is dukkha, is unsatisfactory because it's impermanent. And the cause of the arising of these dhammas is attachment, lobha, and the end of lobha is that which is unconditioned, Nibana, and the path, as you know, beginning with right understanding, which leads to the eradication of the attachment, the cause of the cycle. So these are the first 4 rounds, and the second set of 4 that Ajahn referred to as Kichanyana. Kicha means function. As we mentioned, each chitta and cetasika has a function. So Kichanyana is the understanding which has the function of directly understanding realities. And this is patipatti, as she mentioned. Without the pariyatti understanding, the discussion about the different realities, the understanding intellectually, there cannot be the direct understanding of the realities, the direct understanding of seeing, the direct understanding of what is seen, and so on. So the Kichanyana refers to the direct understanding of the truths, the direct understanding of the cause, the direct understanding of the way. And it is the direct understanding of realities, in other words, the development of satipatthana, that leads to the last 4 rounds, that of kata jnana. Kata means what has been done, the past tense. So it's referring, as Ajahn mentioned, to vipassana jnana. So without the development of intellectual understanding, there cannot be the development of patipatti or satipatthana. And without the development of satipatthana or patipatti, direct understanding, there can never be the vipassana jnanas, the clear realization of the truths, beginning with nama rupa paricheda jnana, the clear direct understanding of the distinction between namas and rupas, right up to enlightenment. So kata jnana refers to the vipassana jnanas and right up to enlightenment. So these are the 12 rounds, the understanding of the noble truths, the 4 noble truths at these different levels of understanding. And they are referred to in the first sutta that the Buddha taught, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the detail in the commentary. So I hope it's a little bit clearer.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. But it's hard to see the difference between the direct understanding and the vipassana jnana. What is the difference between those?
Direct understanding, moments of satipatthana, are just 4 moments understanding the reality, the hardness, the visible object, whatever appears well, but it's not clear enough. Only when it's vipassana jnana is it really clear, not just the occasional moment of understanding, but one reality after another, which is understood clearly and more clearly.
Can you say that direct understanding is just momentarily, and vipassana jnanas is also seeing the context or something like that?
It's understanding not just one reality, but understanding many realities appearing very clearly. But I'll let Ajahn add more on that good question.
Yes, but just before Joan comes in, Vipassana Jnana is also a kind of direct understanding, but of a higher, a particular level of direct understanding.
From hearing the words of the Buddha, can we understand whether now does the object appear clear? Otherwise, what is meant by appears clearly. So now, does it appear clearly? To be true to the truth. If we haven't heard about the teachings at all, we think that now it appears so clear. We can understand whether this is a doll or this is a cat or this is glass. It seems like it appears clear, but without understanding from hearing again and again that what is meant by clear, when there is only one reality appears at a time, only one. Otherwise, it cannot appear clear when they are together. Many things together. How can there be clear understanding of anyone? But when it is only one object appearing, no other object at all, is it not clear? Because it's the only one object. So now, no matter any time, any day, what appears in daily life, does it appear clear or not clear at all? Just the shape and form of that which is different. For example, hardness is not hot at all. So when it appears as hot or hard, does it appear clear? When there's no understanding and when there's the idea of something there, is it clear? Can something is the reality which is known clearly as not something or anything at all? So it depends on understanding too what is meant by clear or clearly. It's not what the eye can see it clear or with spectacle it looks very clear, but clear with understanding of the truth. That it cannot be taken for anything. When it is taken for something instantly, it does not appear clear as it is, because it appears as something. So even one word should be studied carefully of the meaning, that when it's not vipassana jnana, when it is not the object of direct awareness of only one object with understanding, it cannot appear clearly at all. But we think that it looks very clear. But the truth is that it cannot be as clear as it is when it's known just one reality at a time. No other reality mixed or can be there together at all. Even hardness is not the temperature, not hot. Hot is not hot. Heat is heat. Hardness is hardness. To understand clearly that they are different. But when they are together with other things, it cannot be an object as clear as it is with understanding. So even appears clearly should be understood. That what does it mean? When it is something, it characteristic of that object does not appear clear as nothing. Hardness is only hardness, no shape and no form at all. That's why understanding the truth little by little, it's the way to understand how deep the truth is, deeply, that only right understanding can penetrate little by little to understand the underneath truth right now, arising and falling away. So So study each word to understand the meaning of it, even appears well or appears clearly. At moment of thinking, and there's seeing, does the object which is the object which is seen appear clear when there's thinking about other things? And when it's taken for being something, the reality which can be seen, can it appear as nothing rather than that which appears to the seeing itself, appears to the seeing, no thought about shape and form or anything. There's hearing sound and hardness appearing. Which one is clear? Not at all, not any, because they are together as something, taken as the bird's sound or the hardness of a table or something there. So the characteristic which is not self does not appear as it is. And that's the meaning of it does not appear clearly because it appears as something.
Does it appear as something, or is it made into something by the mind?
What is seen now? Is it just that which impinges on the eye base?
No, it's thinking about.
So it's not as clear as when right understanding is there and nothing are together at that very moment. Only one object, one characteristic at a time. But even so, that is nimitta of that object, no matter it's nama or rupa.
Yes.
Because the truth is so very, very rapidly rising and falling away.
It appears as something in the sense it's experienced as something. So the visible object seems to be something, appears as something, is what is meant.
Oh, right.
Because it's thought or taken to be something.
Yes.
Of course, visible object, when it's seen, it's always only visible object, but immediately it's taken for being something.
Yes.
So this is what is meant by it appears as something. So it just means it's experienced as something. And another way of, sorry.
Is it not, it's made into something by the thinking?
By the thinking.
Right. So it
We
doesn't
can just
really...
say it's thought to be something, it's taken
Yes.
for something. And it's not even just thinking as we think of thinking in words, even before there's thinking, long before there's thinking of words, there's the impression of something, the idea
Yes.
of something instantly.
Yes.
Long before there's any idea. As soon as there's seeing, and then instantly it's something that is there.
Yes, and that's
And
meant
another,
something different than the reality.
exactly, just something, the impression of color, impression of form immediately. So the wrong understanding can come in very rapidly, straight after the seeing, long before there's any thinking in words. And with regard to the different levels of understanding, we can say that when it's intellectual understanding, there's lots of, because it's only intellectual understanding, not the firm direct understanding, there's lots of doubt and questioning how and what and why, and wondering whether this is really true and how can citta experience, a concept, and this sort of thing, because it's the intellectual understanding that's not firm enough yet to condition the direct understanding, the moments of satipatthana. But even when it's the direct understanding, in between the moments of understanding, there is ignorance and doubt and wondering, but not so much like when it's intellectual understanding, because there is the direct understanding of the realities. But when it's the clear understanding, Ajahn was referring to, Sachinyana, clear understanding, then it's so firm and clear that very little doubt and no more questions about how and why, no thought of special place or special time, or am I too busy for understanding, or anything like this. So firm and firmer, because the understanding is clear, so clear.
Thank you.
Just a little time if Maeve or Alan or Alberta or anyone else has anything. Tadal, good to see you back, Tadal. If anyone else has anything they would like to bring up.
Yes, so maybe I have a question on Nibana, because we know that Nibana is Nama, but I have never quite understood the connection between Nama, the meaning of Nama and Nibana. So it would be good to hear if anyone, Ajahn and anyone talks about this. Thank you.
Yes, in the text it just says it's Nama because it's that which is bent towards, or
No, I think in the case of Nibana, it says that it causes consciousness to be bent towards it, something like that. There is an explanation in the Visuddhimagga of the connection between Nibana and bent, but the other thing to consider is that if everything is classified as either Nama or Rupa, then is Nibana going to be classified as Rupa or as Nama? One or the other. Maybe it's squeezed into the Nama category.
definitely it's not Rupa. Anyway, Ajahn may add.
Before all, can we understand what does it mean, Nibbana? Otherwise, we don't know the meaning of the word. What is it? What does it mean, Nibbana?
Is the unconditioned reality.
Another meaning, what is it?
Is the end of all suffering, or the end of all kilesa.
Especially Lobha, see, the second noble truth. That's why, if there is not any understanding of this moment, can there be the understanding of Lobha right now? 3 moments after seeing is there. 3 moments after hearing, not knowing what it is yet, it's there. Asava is there. And Nibbana is the end of akusala, the ignorance and attachment as the core of kilesa. Is it real? The end, no more. No conditions for akusala for ignorance and attachment with the idea of self, the first stage of enlightenment, Sotapatimaka, ends up the conditions for attachment and ignorance with wrong understanding. Can there be that very moment, the reality which does not arise anymore, no condition for its arising to be wrong understanding, as Putujna? So understanding the meaning of it, the end of lopa, the end of ignorance and lopa, the end of ignorance and lopa and wrong understanding, the first stage, to end up akusala, stage by stage. So Nibana is the end of the arising, because if there is no ignorance anymore, there cannot be condition for anything to arise. Citta, Cittasika cannot arise anymore. In order to begin to understand the nature of Nibbana, we have to understand that it is different from the reality which is conditioned to arise and falling away, dukkha, Ariya Satya, anicca, dukkha, and anatta. But when it does not arise, how can it be anicca, dukkha, anatta? It is anatta, not anyone or anything, but not anicca and dukkha. This is the begin to understand that nature, as it has to be that moment, the eradication of ignorance, attachment, and wrong understanding. Panya realized the truth of that very moment. But since it can be right now, that moment, what is there now can be object of understanding a little more, little by little, as it is the nature which experiences is now experiencing. It sees, it thinks, it likes, and so on. Until the understanding of its nature as it is develops enough to understand what is there now as it is. By conditions, anatta, little by little.
Thank you, Ajahn. I think it's time up another very helpful discussion. Sawadee ka.
Sawadee ka.
Sawadee
Thank you, everyone.